Welcome to the Workforce Show's Young Professionals podcast series.
And I'm on the engineering team there. So I work on the government affairs side of the business, building tools for government affairs professionals.
So though you're not a legal expert or you're not a finance expert, you are an engineering expert, right?
Somewhat. I'm new in this field, so I'm learning every day. I made a career switch while at the company. So at this point, I have about 2.5 years experience in engineering. Before that, I was on the data team. And so...
Could you say that again?
Yeah, I was on the data team.
Oh, data team.
Yes, I was a data analyst. And I worked a lot with the congressional data. My degree's in political science, so it was kind of more into legislative procedure, legislative policy, reading bills, reading amendments, summarizing them, going to markups, making sure we had the correct votes for committee markups, making sure the data was correct. So I did that for about 2 years.
Oh, that for Bloomberg, did you? You didn't do it for Bloomberg, did you?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been with Bloomberg for 5 years now. So it's been some time.
Great. Well, let me back up though to your I was going to say childhood, not that far, but are you an only child or do you have brothers and sisters?
I'm an only child, raised by my mom, single parent home. So it was just me and her mostly, like for much of my childhood. I pretty much me and my mom going through everything together.
Makes you friends as well as a grandmother and daughter. So tell me, did you grow up in Washington, in D.C.?
Close. I grew up in Baltimore County. I was born in Howard County, but most of my childhood spent in Baltimore.
I see. So when you were in high school, and Bob, did you ever dream that you would be doing this today?
Not at all. What I'm doing, when I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor.
Or an Indian chief.
Sorry?
Or an Indian chief.
I mean, you know, my mom did the best she could. She didn't go to a 4-year college, so I didn't really have that aspiration because I didn't really see it. So I watched a lot of TV and I saw, like, you know, people who made it or were successful were lawyers and doctors. So I thought that is what I should be doing. So yeah, growing up, I spent a lot of time like in my studies. I was very much into school, being a good student. And I thought law was the path forward, or medicine was the path forward.
Mm. Tell me, when you went to school in Baltimore County,
Yep.
Was there any, I mean, I've been to a lot of programs in Baltimore County, underserved population and specialist programs, et cetera. Did you take advantage of any of these programs?
Not really. Like, can you give me an example?
Like an example would be, there's a special program for girls and introducing them to the math and science and STEM world. And they would have camps, etc.
Nope. I wasn't really exposed to that. I guess it's something that I don't want to say I have regrets, because I think everything ultimately happens, you know, things end up falling into place. But I perceive myself as not being good at STEM because it was hard. And so I thought if something was hard, I naturally wasn't inclined to be good at it. So if I would have had someone there to say, hey, yeah, this is hard, but you practice and you get better and you can do this, perhaps I would have went that route. because I was really into science. I love space. Like my favorite planet was Jupiter. I love talking about like learning about NASA, and it's just that those subjects were hard. So I thought I wasn't good at it. And I think it's really important to make sure, and I think this is happening more now, like with girls in STEM, like we are really encouraging our girls to take those classes, to make sure that we're present in them. Because, you know, when I was a kid, you know, I just thought I wasn't good at it. And no one really challenged me on that, you know?
Mhm. Well, I can understand that, especially today, because I'm not good at Zoom. As you discover, and it's my first time doing it, so we'll learn, and I'll struggle, and I'll get beaten. You've given me encouragement.
Awesome.
Encouragement. All right. So you watch television a lot, and your role models emanated from the TV shows that you watched, right?
Yep.
Which ones? What was your role model? What were your role models as a kid?
So I watched a lot of the Cosby Show. I know he's like very, like, no one wants to talk about that show anymore, you know, for good reason.
I liked it. I found it fun.
Yeah, but just to see a successful Black family on television, I was that I gravitated towards that, because it's not something I had. And so I was like, okay. And that's where like the law and the medicine thing came in, you know? It's like, okay, this family's really successful. They have, you know, great kids. They're all in school and they're doing what they need to do. So there was that. There was also, as I got to the end of high school, I graduated high school in 2009. So this was right when President Obama was elected. So during the like 2008 primary, it was Secretary Clinton and then Senator Obama. And I didn't really know much about politics, but to see them be the top two in the party vying for the nomination was crazy to me. And so I started paying more attention to politics and got to know them and well, not know them, but following them in the media. And I got really inspired, and I'm like, okay, this seems like something that I could maybe learn more about. And so that was like my senior year of high school. And from there, I started putting myself out there more. So our local TV station called WJZ 13 in Baltimore, they have a Black History Month oratory contest. And so I wrote a speech for it. And I got picked.
Right.
And so I did the speech. It was very well received. I got second place. I got, you know, a lot of awards for it and recognition. And I was really nervous about it. But the fact that people were like, wow, you can write well, you can speak well, that was like really motivating for me, because I'd never heard that before. And so from there, I was like, okay, I can probably be good at speaking, be good at writing. And that kind of like helped fuel my like appetite for, you know, pursuing things like that. And yeah, the rest is history. I went on to go to Howard University, historically Black college here in DC.
Well, that was a very fine college. I mean, that is a very fine college.
Yeah.
I mean, GW would have loved to have had you.
Yeah.
I went to GW, so.
Yeah.
So I think GW would have had the hands over you as a candidate for the school. And then did you go right, when you graduated, did you go right to Bloomberg?
No. So it's interesting because I pretty much from like my freshman year until my senior year, I didn't have any internship experience, and I was starting to freak out. You know, I'm kind of introverted, so I stayed insular and didn't really socialize, kept my head down in my studies. And I didn't really put myself out there because it was contrary to what I said before, I grew up with just my mom. So being away from her kind of like affected me. I was going home every weekend. I wasn't immersing myself into the college experience my first 3 years. And so I think that is part of the reason why I didn't really have any like work experience up until that point, because I was just doing schoolwork. But my senior year, I got a couple internships. One in the late Elijah Cummings' office, which was a great experience. I got to see how a congressional office worked. I got to respond to letters. I got to help the scheduler with scheduling. I answered a lot of phones. And from there, you can kind of get a sense of what people are feeling in the district. Because, the people that call their representatives or their senators really need something because, folks just going on about their business usually aren't doing that. So you get to hear from people. Mm-hmm. And so I did that. And those internships led me to a company called CQ Roll Call. CQ Roll Call. I think they were recently acquired by Fiscal Note. Okay. And so the editorial, there's an editorial component and a data component with that company, and they report on the Hill. They report on Congress. So I got more editorial experience with them. I started out as an intern with them, and they hired me on full time once that expired. So I was there for about a year and a half, and then I came to Bloomberg.
So that's very interesting, and I think a lot of people listening would benefit from hearing this, because first of all, you didn't reach out, you didn't extend yourself in your first 3 years because you were afraid or you're more introverted, but you concentrated on work. And then when you did extend yourself the last year, it all seemed to fall into place. You got a job.
Yeah, and I think some of that also is, I don't want to discount merit, but also it's a lot of luck. It's a lot of meeting the right people at the right time. I happened to, before one of my classes, have a conversation with a young woman. I think she was like a graduate assistant or something. And we were talking about internships, and she's like, hey, there's this listserv that I can get you on. And there's a lot of opportunities there. And from that listserv, I learned about an organization that places undergraduates in the federal government. So one of my first internships was at the Department of Veterans Affairs. So I wouldn't have even known about that if I didn't meet this woman before one of my classes to talk about internships and get me on a listserv and meet people. So a lot of it is merit, but a lot of it is just very organic, and you're meeting people and you're talking to them about your goals, and people are generally good. They want to help you. They want to help young people.
As long as you know your goals, as long as you inspire them to help you. Right?
Exactly. Yep.
What was the worst thing you've ever done involving career? What can you think of anything that you did that wasn't helpful? Or people that you knew who weren't helpful, you thought they were going to be?
That weren't helpful.
Or anything that you were sorry that you did and you were sorry it happened to you?
Nothing that I can think of. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Well, because along the way, people make mistakes and they've taken the wrong job, or they have a boss that isn't sensitive and doesn't even care. A boss that is a control freak, a boss who doesn't listen, and that affects people's career. But you've had a nice ride, haven't you?
Generally, yes. There's definitely been some struggle. Like, I don't want to say it's been all rosy, because to be honest, when I first got started, I was a bill tracker. So what that basically is you watch the House and Senate floor all night long, and you know pretty much what's going on, when votes are happening, when a piece of legislation unexpectedly passes on the Senate floor, because the Senate operates a little bit differently. And so I was pulling, during like appropriation season on the Hill, I was working until like midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, until Congress stopped. And that was really hard. And I recognize that I'm, single, no kids. A lot of people wouldn't be able to do that, So
That's due to do because of that reason.
Right. And so that was hard. And, I kind of thought about it at the time, because I could have been like, this sucks. Like, I don't want to do this. I have no life. But I try to think about it in a way that I'm gaining experience and I'm young and this isn't going to be forever. And the lessons I'm learning now could help me later. And they did. So yeah, it was hard at the time, but I just try to remember that there's no progress without struggle. And it's something I went through similarly when I was learning how to code, because I learned this on the job. I didn't go to school for computer science, so that was really hard. And so it was sort of like the same lesson there.
Mm-hmm. Well, perseverance, first of all, that's one of the things that has seen you through the good times and the bad times.
Exactly.
And it's perseverance above all else. And then being willing to risk, going out of your shell and learning a little bit more about something that you didn't know about, and it opened up a world of opportunities. So you went to work for Bloomberg, and so how's it been since then?
Every day is different. This field is very rewarding because technology changes so quickly. You're never going to know everything. So you have to be okay with that, first of all. And there's always something you can be learning. And so like this job is constant learning and collaboration.
And that's what you have to do. Do you enjoy that learning?
I do.
And
yeah, I think that's why I like it, because, as I said in the beginning, school was a refuge for me. I was an introvert. I was bullied a lot in school. So I didn't,
a lot? Okay.
Yeah, I was.
Another.
And so I sort of sought refuge in learning, in books, reading a lot. And so like this field just, it fuels that in me, because there's always something that I could be learning and getting better at as an engineer.
Well, you've very much impressed me because of all the things you've said, and that you came from humble beginnings, and you were in a job and a career that you like because of the excitement and the change. So what's your next step?
Next step is to hopefully become a senior engineer. So this year I was promoted from an associate level position to sort of a mid position. So my managers and my team, they are, entrusting me with more decisions and more, input into our like technical direction. Mm-hmm. So that's exciting. It's also scary. So, I'm starting to read more about system architecture and how to, because like when you're designing a system, it's a lot of knowing the best tools to use for a given project. Mm-hmm. So when you first start out as a programmer, you're like, okay, I get these tickets, tell me exactly what to do and I can do it. And so from there, it's like, okay, here are some very vague requirements. Come up with a solution rather than,
right.
Yep. Rather than this is exactly what to do. So that transition for me, I'm working through right now, because it's like, the imposter syndrome will set in. It's like, oh, they're going to figure me out. I'm not really good at this. But that's nonsense because they wouldn't have promoted you if you weren't.
Right.
So I try to keep that in check.
Okay. Well, your left and right brain, your left brain for reading the data and analyzing the data, and your right brain for being creative and exciting and all that. So this is wonderful. I have enjoyed this very much and talking to you. I mean, you're really an inspiration, not only to me, because you are.
Appreciate it.
I'm an imposter when it comes to Zoom. But, and we will stay in touch, and I'll see you around. And I wish you all the best, because you are so talented and such a personable person.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And it's Kayla Webb, and she works for Bloomberg Industries, LLP. And they do, what do? They do tax and
tax law, government.
And government. And so, and when I went to hear the program, what Kayla was talking about, and everybody else who spoke, that the engineering, the technical side of their business affects all their businesses, how the law gets summarized and put into documents, into a format, and delivered in a way that is understandable, et cetera. So she is a master of all trades and will become a master of more. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.